economy, of course. Jill Starley-Grainger is a travel journalist and podcaster. A very good one. Hi, Jill. What do you make of this?
This is obviously great news. We know that vaccine passports, they're going to have to become a thing. I mean, obviously, a year and a half ago, this would have been a depressing concept to talk about, but we would now be thrilled to have vaccine passports. But it's not as straightforward as people think. A lot of people equate it to the yellow fever vaccine, but the reality is there's one yellow fever vaccine. It's recognized around the world. Whereas with COVID vaccines, there are now 14 approved vaccines recognized around the world, and each nation only recognizes a few of them. So you've got to get nations to agree which ones they're happy to accept. So if you've been vaccinated with AstraZeneca, is America going to accept you? Because currently AstraZeneca isn't approved in America. So it's quite complicated, but hopeful.
So how will it work, do you think? Will it be a case and easy enough, straightforward enough to say, hi, I've been vaxxed on the plane. Hi, I've been vaxxed off the plane, to the hotel, I've been vaxxed, to the swimming pool, to the booze, to the food, go home, no problem?
I mean, obviously, that is not going to happen in the short term, is it? In the beginning, there will be heaps of teething problems. And of course, loads of people still haven't been vaccinated. Children can't be vaccinated. And if you're talking about an app or a digital passport, there will be many, many, many people in all demographics who that will not be practical for. Lots of people will have phones. I mean, I don't know about you, but my phone drives me crazy. Every time there's an update, suddenly half my apps no longer work. And unless I buy a new phone every 2 years, half of my apps aren't working. So how are they going to make sure that more people, as many people as possible, can use it without forcing you to fork out for expensive new phones? So it's complicated. I think in a year's time, it's going to be a lot simpler, but at least in the short term, it's likely that some people, yes, you will have this. And some countries are already using this. In Denmark, for example, you can already use their own version of an internal vaccine passport to eat out in restaurants in Denmark, as an example. So it's on the cards, but there are a lot of issues around it, and it will be much more complicated than everybody perhaps thinks.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the comments from the Spanish tourism minister. He's welcomed assurances from Westminster that the UK's traffic light system, under which international holidays will restart, will categorise islands individually based on their coronavirus caseload and vaccine programmes. That's interesting, and seems to be a somewhat a complexity underneath all of this. But we have to say Spain is the UK's most popular overseas destination, isn't it, for the likes of us who want to go on holiday there? But yeah, what do you make about that different situations for different island situation?
Yeah, I think realistically that has to be a thing, because we saw early on in the virus, when even the virus was happening, certain islands in Spain or in other countries around the world had virtually no cases. But because they happened to be part of a bigger country, all of the tourists suddenly had to fly back home quickly in order to avoid having to quarantine, even if they were on an island that had virtually no cases whatsoever. So again, another layer of complexity, but I do completely understand in the short term why this would likely be the case, because let's say Mallorca is doing really well. It has its cases under control. Why should people who are on holiday in Mallorca suddenly have to worry if something is happening, 10 hours across the country elsewhere in Spain, when Mallorca is sort of self-contained as its own little border? So much like in the UK, of course, we have our own islands in the UK. So, if the Isle of Wight is doing really well, should it really have to go into all the lockdowns that the rest of the country is, for example? So I think in the short term, for the next few months, there's still going to be a lot of issues. I, however, would still advise anybody to hold fire before booking a trip. And I'm sorry, I know loads of travel agents will hate me saying that, but the reality is we still don't know the details about which countries are going to be included. And so until we know those details, it's very risky for you to book a trip, because most insurance policies still will not cover this.
And what if the situation changes when you're away?
Well, exactly. So if you go somewhere where it's green, or maybe you have your vaccine passport or whatever it is, and you go there and you think it's fine, and suddenly this becomes an amber country, which would mean that you'd have to quarantine when you get back. Well, some people might think, oh, well, that's fine. I can work from home. A lot of people would not be able to work from home. Last summer we had people who were NHS staff who were desperate to get away. They went away thinking the traffic light system was going to work. And then you had nurses who were like, I desperately needed a break, but now I have to get back because you can't be a nurse from home. So this did cause a lot of problems and a lot of confusion. So hopefully the government will be able to provide more clarity about this, and hopefully a little bit more certainty that you wouldn't get out there and suddenly find that you've gone from green to amber, or worst case scenario to red, within a matter of 2 or 3 days, which is what
Yeah.
happened last time. Because red, you could end up with a 2,000 pounds a person hotel bill.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it, Jill. It's 8:44.